The Leafs lose another must-win game as the season slips away. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, the daily Maple Leafs centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host Dave Morassutti. Thank you for making us part of your daily listening routine. Just a reminder, you can find the podcast wherever you subscribe to podcasts and also up on YouTube. New episodes coming out each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. The Maple Leafs with a 7-4 loss to the Buffalo Sabres in what was billed as a must-win game, Dave, by everybody, including the players and the coach ahead of the game. 7-4 does not scream, must-win material to me. You lose that game 7-4, you got to be shaking your head. What do you think, Dave? Is it over? Is it curtains on the 2025-26 Maple Leafs?
It's feeling like it. Like they're pushing themselves, like bringing back the Brian Burke 18-wheeler off the cliff. Like that's kind of the aura we're getting with this team right now.
So who was it? Dom, I think, put out a chart. He said the last 10 games of the Maple Leafs, this 10-game stretch, they haven't had a worse expected goals in a 10-game stretch since the Randy Carlyle, Peter Horachek era Maple Leafs. That's how long it's been since they've had a stretch of 10 games where they've played this poorly. And to cap it off with, going winless in this homestand, you lose to the Buffalo Sabres in what is billed as a must-win game after the coach pretty much calls out the leadership and had to tell them, hey, this game is very meaningful. We got to give this a lot of effort. We got to play a lot better. And then to go out and lose 7-4. That's embarrassing, Dave. And it just, I don't know. It might be over for the Maple Leafs this year. It might be time to turn the page on the season and really get into seller mode and see what you can do and look ahead, because what I saw from the team tonight, they might not have what it takes to get up for a game. That's kind of the issue with the Maple Leafs. They might not have it. They didn't have it over the weekend against Vegas. They didn't have it tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. And there's been countless other times. Didn't have it against Colorado, but there's been countless times this season where it's like, this is a big game. The Maple Leafs, they got to show up, and they just have not been able to do that. And you're now 53 games into the year, and these are the performances you're putting up in must-win games. You're now 8 points out of a playoff spot. 8 points out of a playoff position 53 games into the year. I think it's over, man. I think it's over for the season. It's time to turn the page. I thought that there was going to be at least a few more games. I know coming into this one, I came out and said, hey, there's 5 games left to determine the rest of the season. But in the way and the fashion in which the Maple Leafs lost this one to the Sabres, I don't even think you have to really wait for those 4 games to kind of call it on the year. I think tonight was the dagger.
This makes you think the fact that a few months ago, we thought the Leafs hit rock bottom when they fired Mark Savard. Remember, all that stuff was going wrong. Then they rattle off this amazing, streak where they won a bunch of games and made you think, okay, this looks like a team that maybe can push for a playoff spot. And then we're back there. We're back to the, just looking outmatched, right, against teams that this stretch of teams has not been easy. Like, don't get me wrong, they haven't had any give me games really, but it's a test to show where you are amongst these teams, and it just goes to show it ain't there. It just isn't.
You're not in the league. You're not in that league anymore. You're not in the league of the Buffalo Sabres. That's where you're at this point in this era of the Maple Leafs. You're not in the same league as the Buffalo Sabres. They outclassed you, outperformed, outchanced, outshot, outplayed, outmuscled you. The Sabres were the better team, from start to finish. It took the Leafs, like 7 minutes to get a shot on goal. Okay, ended up in the back of the net, which is nice, but it took them way too long. And I think they only had like 22 or 23 shots on net. Like the Sabres were down to their third string goaltender, and the Leafs still couldn't really muster up any opportunities. You look at the third period. No high danger touches in the third period. They were down the entire period, and they couldn't get it going offensively to muster up enough opportunities to get to within, 2 goals. They did get the one, I guess, to make it 6-4, but the game was over the second Jack Quinn shot that puck right through Joseph Woll. That was just a bad back-breaking goal. The one 16 seconds into the period, Alex Tuck, at the end of the second period there, they're just back-breaking goals, man. Back-breaking goals, and you can't allow that. In a game that's this meaningful, wherever, where they're at in the standings, these just can't happen. And it's so unfortunate. There was some high hopes, with this group, with this team, to see what they could do this year. But I got to tell you, man, it looks like this team's going, 2 or 3 steps backwards, not forwards this year. It's really, really has been a difficult run, difficult stretch. You pick up 1 point in a homestand.
Embarrassing.
It's embarrassing. It really, really
embarrassing
is.
For a team that's supposedly supposed to push for a playoff spot. Like the Canucks have had stretches like this, and the Canucks are clearly in tank mode. Like they're not pushing to compete this year. Like that's the part that's frustrating is, you got fans paying a good price to go to games. This is Daryl Sittler's 50th anniversary celebration for 10 points in a game. And this is the second time where the Leafs have honored somebody, an accomplishment. First it was Joe Bowen. Now it's Daryl Sittler. And this is a game you just couldn't rise to the occasion after your coach came out and says, we need to rise to the occasion.
That's the part that I think is most mind-boggling is, and you listen to the post-game press conference, and we have the Berube sound, and Berube went off, and he kind of blew up a little bit, and it was a tense presser according to everybody that was in the room there. So we will play that audio because I think it's actually very compelling and showing as to the frustration levels in Craig Berube and where he sits with his thoughts on his team. But you challenge your leaders. You ask them to play better, play harder. This is a big game, and that's the result that they give you. This is the result of that. You challenge them and expect them to come up big, and they lose 7-4. I mean, it's just embarrassing. Like you said, it's an embarrassing defeat, a lousy effort, and might be the end, man. Like this might be the one that broke the straw that breaks the camel's back. I don't know if you've listened to the rest of the pressers. Like I heard Morgan Rielly and John Tavares. Like these guys look defeated, like quite literally defeated. They understood the gravity of what this game against the Sabres was, and to go out there and lack desperation when that's what they preached the entire game was, we got to be desperate. We got to be desperate. Like there was zero desperation in that game. It was an embarrassing effort from start to finish, and it's not a good look. Now you got to go out on the road, and you got to go to the Western road trip, and couple easier opponents, I'll say, but it doesn't matter. You've already dug yourself so far into a hole that you probably would have to go 4-0 on this road trip in order to put yourself back into playoff contention after a loss like this. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We'll kind of get into the game a little bit, and we'll break down Craig Berube's blow up with the media, because I think that it was pretty telling as to where he's at with the Maple Leafs and his team moving forward based on what he's seen as of late. So we'll get to that next in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's show is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our businesses and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communication is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number with Quo, so nothing gets missed. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo to get for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. That's quo.com/lockedonnhl. Try it for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube as well. And if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more. All built for our most loyal fans. You can click in the show, in the link in the show description down below to join and learn more about our team's community. The Maple Leafs with a 7-4 loss to the Buffalo Sabres. It was a big game. It was a meaningful game. It was one that had a lot of implications on it in terms of what, how much was riding on the Maple Leafs future, so it seems. And a loss like that really makes you wonder what the point is if this team, wants to continue on to a playoff journey. I saw a stat that the Maple Leafs, there's 29 games left. They would have to go 29-0 to match the 115 points they had back in 21-22. They'd have to go literally. They would have to win every single game from here on out to match what they did just a few years ago. That's how much this team has fallen off.
The Leafs have allowed 35 even strength goals over an 8-game span for the first time since 1990.
Yeah, that's tough. So that's even through the bleak years, like through Raycroft, through Toskala, through Reimer, through who was the Bernier, Freddie Anderson, through all that. Wow, that's tough, man. That is tough. Just goes to show goaltending is important. Stopping pucks, keeping pucks out of the net. It is important, and it is really what the biggest issue was. You look at this 5-game homestand, they allowed 25 goals. They outscored 25-12 in this 5-game homestand. You mentioned it. Was it the last 8 games that they had allowed 35 goals? Was that the stretch there for that stat that you just gave? 8 games, 35 goals.
Yep.
Yeah. So they've had a tough time keeping the puck out of the net. And let's play the Berube audio, because that's pretty much what he's talking about. And the numbers do back it up, but man, you can just get a real good sense. Oh God, look at the guy's forehead too. Like, he looks so angry. He looks so mean. Jeez Louise. Let's just play it. Here's Berube after the 7-4 loss. You can really get a sense of his level of frustration with his team's performance here tonight.
From there.
What did you learn about your team on this homestand?
What did I learn about them?
Yeah.
Well, that we gotta keep the puck out of our net is what I learned, and we didn't do that here at home, other than the Detroit game. It's the only game we did. But until we decide to do things right and keep the puck out of our net, and that's the goalies included, this is what you're going to get. We scored enough goals on this homestand to win games, but we didn't keep the puck out of our net. Until you want to keep the puck out of your net, And that's a couple things: managing the game, puck play, don't give odd man rushes up, defend harder than we are, more desperation in defending, and goalie stop the puck. That's it. Well, we could score goals. We score goals. But until we want to keep the puck out of our net, this is what we're going to get. It's no more than that. I don't want to talk about it anymore. That's all it is. I don't need to learn anything about our team. I know our team, and they're capable of doing it. So, we can do it.
You mentioned the goalies.
Yeah.
Did you wish you had Dennis Hildeby at any point during this homestand? He's been
These are our guys. Stolarz is back, ready to go. So this is decisions that you got to make. They're our goalies.
You mentioned not getting.
Yeah, so there it is. Man, like that's, you could tell, like, he said a couple of things there that really you could tell there's a high level of frustration there. He said, when we decide to, until we decide to do things right, this is what we're going to get. He basically said we have to defend harder. We got to play desperate. And the goalies need to stop pucks. Those are the three things that he needs this team to do. And you would think that 53 games into the year, you shouldn't have to tell your team to do any of that, especially when you're 8 points out of a playoff spot. You would think that desperation should have already kicked in, which should have forced this team to kind of buy in and defend as a unit. And when you do that, you're going to get better goaltending through osmosis, right? You allow a much easier night for the goaltenders, and we've seen that. When you make it easy on them, they can usually stop pucks. If they see puck, they'll stop puck. So, look, I understand, like, Craig Berube is right, where that is kind of what they need to do. But we're 53 games into the season, Dave. How come they're not doing it already? And at what point can you look at this roster, look at this team, and look at the body of work this season? Maybe you just got to sit there and say, maybe this team can't do that and can't do it enough. Like he says, I've seen it. We saw it for about 6-7 games, thereabouts, and it's been missing ever since, right? Like there was that little stretch coming out of the Christmas break where they played well. They protected the puck well. They got good goaltending. Special teams were on fire, but really outside of that stretch, it's been a lot of the same of what we saw tonight. Turnover after turnover after turnover, back-breaking goals, awful goals at the end of periods or at the beginning of periods. I can count on one hand how many 60-minute performances the Maple Leafs have had this year. Yeah. There's a lot of issues and a lot of holes with this team, man. A lot of them.
And I get it. Like, you've had Tanev out for, like, he's played only 11 games this year. Carlo has missed stretches too. But it just also speaks to the fact that the defense is not just one or two players. It's a team concept. And it's everyone that has to play a role in turning things around. And that's not happening. Like, you look at tonight, guys are looking lost. They're all over the place, disorganized. The Sabres are shooting from every which way. Yep, the goalie needs to stop pucks. Totally. Yep, I didn't think anything Joseph Woll was spectacular by any means. And so, like, it gets to the point where the guys are in the quicksand. They're just like, we have no answers right now to what's happening. And like, this is a team that used to be built on speed, puck possession. Now they look slow, disinterested, and there's no, like, this is not a quick fix situation.
No,
this is if Berube is asking them to play a certain style, there's probably going to have to be a roster built to be able to play that style then, because I don't see this roster being able to do it.
I don't see them being able to do it either. And the problem is, like, I don't think Berube sticks around long enough for them to rebuild the roster. Like, that's the problem. Like, you got a couple of guys here who are making a lot of money and they're here long term that are part of the problem. I mean, like, Willie's one, Rielly's another. Like, until you move on from, and I don't think they're going to move on from those guys, but like, if you're really going to retool the roster to, change the makeup of the group, change the mindset of the group, and make it more Berube friendly, then you have to have serious, consideration and conversations, and not just conversations. You got to have action. Like, you got to move one of these guys, some of these guys. Like, that's the thing. We're talking all the time about how Brad Chilving's working the phones. He wants to make a trade, wants to make a move. Do it. Like, just go out there and do it. Dubas has made like 4 or 5 trades this year. They're just little ones, they're just little tiny little trades. It's not like they're, anything monster. He's not moving out, of getting Malkin or Crosby or Rust or anything like that. But he's done a couple deals where he's like, okay, let's move out Tomasino. Okay, well, let's bring in Yegor Chinnikov. Let's bring in, this player and see if that could work. Let's
get rid of Jari and bring in the Skinner.
Let's make this goaltender swap. Exactly. And Skinner's been unbelievable in the last like 8 or 9 games, whatever it's been. He's been the best goalie in the league. Like, just little things. Like, you can make trades. I don't know why Brad Treliving makes it seem like it's so difficult to make trades, or why, the media makes it feel like it's so hard for him to make a trade, and he's trying to do something. If he was trying so hard, something could have been done by now, clearly.
Yep. Pick a lane too, man. Like, we hear, maybe they're going to look to add a forward or bring in a defenseman. Then you hear, maybe they'll consider trading like a Bobby McMahon. Pick a lane. The Boston Bruins the last few years decided our team's not good enough. They didn't go and they didn't sell Pasternak. They didn't go and they didn't sell McAvoy. They got rid of Carlo. Well, Marchand was pretty much out the door there. You take your look, like, guys they knew that just weren't a part of the long-term future. And then look at what Boston is right now. Boston is right back into the swing of things because they picked the lane. And the Leafs, for how many years, have decided we're going to stay in the contending lane. But, just like the Pittsburghs, the Vancouvers, and all those teams that have decided we're just going to go in. It catches up to you. Tampa, to a degree, had done that, but they decided we're going to stop trading first-round picks and trade other things because we found ways to get other assets. The Leafs haven't done that, and at least have to start. Like, Treliving has to pick a lane in what he wants to do with this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team probably forced his hand at this point. Like, I think it's time to look at moving on from some of these players, and we're not just talking about the UFAs. Like, if there's a serious call made to, I don't think anyone should be off limits at this point. I don't think anybody should be off limits. Like, if there is a market friendly deal that's offered to you for Austin Matthews or for William Nylander or for John Tavares or maybe even Matthew Nyes, like, if it makes sense, like, I think you got to be open to it. I don't think anyone at this point is an off the table type of player for the Maple Leafs right now. I think you got to keep all your options on the table if you're Treliving and you really do want to change things here in Toronto.
That's the big part here is, like, you can't just be, you have to make these players understand that there is has to be, if they're not going to be accountable with their play on the ice and what they say off the ice, then they're going to be held accountable in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you can hold some players accountable is to make them feel whatever the security blanket that they had isn't going to be there to save them.
Can I ask you a question and offer something? Do you think it'd be blasphemous to healthy scratch Morgan Rielly? Don't answer it. We'll talk about that next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. And this is where predictions turn to plays, stats turn to storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, just bet $5. You'll get $200 in bonus bets if that bet wins. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over, It's your last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe to us on YouTube as well. And I ask for those who are still listening on YouTube, or if you're listening on your phone, in the car, wherever you're listening, let us know. And Dave's about to give me his answer. Would it be blasphemous for the Maple Leafs to healthy scratch Morgan Rielly? What say you, Dave?
I don't think so at all. Before, we've tried very hard to not bring these ideas forward, but if they're not going to do the job that they're being paid to do, then guess what? You find other players that are going to do it. Even Jake McCabe, to a degree, has not looked like a stalwart defenseman, right? Their best defensive defenseman. He has been far from that. I think you realistically could have scratched both those guys going into the next game, and to really just send a message that they had a veterans leadership meeting. Those two guys, I guarantee, we know Rielly for sure, McCabe probably, were definitely a part of it, and that's the effort that you give defensively. I'm sorry, obviously you probably can't do both just because you're not, you don't have an influx of defensemen that you can play. But I would start with Morgan Rielly for sure. The thing is just I'm struggling to see anything positive he has done. Really, since everyone was he's back. We were talking about this, back to being at least an offensive contributor. Hasn't really felt that way.
Let me see what his game log is looking like the last little bit, because he's not a guy who really has been filling the stat sheet. What do you have? 1 point on this homestand? Did he get? He might have got some points tonight, I guess. But yeah, that's it. Just one little piddly point. Leading into tonight's game, and let me just quickly see if he had anything tonight. He might have got a secondary. No, 1 point in this homestand. That's it. One little. Piddly assist. That's it in this 5-game homestand. And he's supposed to be a top pairing defenseman who is there to supply offense, because there's not a lot of defense being supplied. I can assure you that. I mean, the guy's been on the ice for more goals than anyone else in the NHL this year. That's the thing. This guy's legitimately been on the ice for nearly more goals than anyone else. Just might need to give his head a shake. And possibly even too, if you make it uncomfortable for him, maybe it makes him more likely to want to leave and to get a fresh start himself. Maybe that's
okay, Morgan. If you really don't want to waive the no trade clause, then we're gonna have no choice than to go play somebody. We'll have to eat the salary that you're not justifiably earning right now, and we'll just have you sit in the press box, and we'll see how many, even if we get smidget better defensively, we'll take it just because it's not working. And it's not, there's how many more years left of this deal? 4 more years.
So Morgan Rielly at 5-on-5, I just went and found the numbers. He's been on the ice for 60 goals against at 5-on-5 this year. 60 goals against. His second on the team is Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who's been on the ice for 52 goals against. So the Maple Leafs have 2 defensemen who've been on the ice for more goals than anyone else in the NHL this season. But Morgan Rielly, by a large margin, on the ice for 9 goals, more than any other defenseman not on the Maple Leafs. I mean, what does that tell you?
Dougie Hamilton got scratched by New Jersey. That was a huge story. It really ramped up. He had declined a trade to San Jose in the offseason, didn't want to get moved there. So what does New Jersey do? The moment he starts playing bad, you're in the press box. All of a sudden, the trade chatter starts to really pick up. If I'm Morgan Rielly and if the Leafs do that, some people are going to say, that's a tough. Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is, because you know what? he's their highest paid defenseman right now, and he's not doing his part in it. And he plays a lot of minutes, but it's just not happening.
Yeah, and what does pain me to say this, like, just I do want to say, like, I love Morgan Rielly as a player. I think that Morgan Rielly, his give a bleep meter is much higher than mostly anybody's on the team. Like, even listening to him after the game tonight, like, he seems very gutted at the fact that his team has not been able to come up with, performances that they need to stay in the mix, to stay in the hunt here in the playoff race. Like, it's gutting to him that the team is in this predicament. But at the same time, I mean, he's part of the problem, and that's an issue. Among players who have played at least 250 or more minutes in the NHL this season, how many Maple Leafs do you think have more goals against, have been on the ice for the most goals against per 60 minutes? Keep in mind, 250 games or 250 minutes, like, that's not a lot. Let me see that's like 15 games, like a little more than 15 games played. So among players with at least 15 games played, pretty well, 15 to 20 games played, who do you think or how many of the Maple Leafs are on the ice for more goals? I forget how I word that question.
How many more goals against than 4?
So 3 of the top 5. I'll just answer the answer for you. 3 of the top 5 players who've been on the ice for the most goals against this year have been in Toronto Maple Leafs uniforms. William Nylander, who is 4 of the top 5 players. 4 of the top 5 players who've been on the ice for the most goals against per 60. Braden Bauman somehow is last place, 4.3 goals per 60, followed by Philip Myers, William Nylander, Max Domi, and then Morgan Rielly. Nylander, Domi, and Rielly are actually on the ice quite a lot. Domi's on the top line. Nylander clearly is a 20-ish minute per game player, and so is Morgan Rielly, supposed to be a top pairing defenseman. So you got guys who are on the ice a lot. They're giving up that many goals per 60 minutes. That's a problem, Dave. To have 4 of the top 5 guys who've been scored on one team, that just goes to show how poor it's truly been for this team.
I have another part of this. Somebody was asking me not too long ago that if the Leafs do decide that they need to retool, let's call it a retool.
Okay.
Do you trust Brad Schliving to do this? Given what we've seen the last couple of years from him? I know this is probably a conversation we need to have. A bigger conversation.
Yeah, that's its own podcast. But, like, if not Brad, then who? Like, then what are you going to punt on the season? Because, like, then who's going to take over for the next, month into the trade deadline? And at that point, do you expect for that person to make big decisions like that? Like, probably not. Realistically, probably not. I mean, look, for the last 3-4 years, the Maple Leafs have been a year behind on everything, because they're always a year too late. Like they were a year too late making the GM change. They were a year too late making the coaching change, and then a year too late bringing in Keith Pelly. Didn't give him enough time to truly evaluate to see if should they keep with the Shannon plan or not, and then that wasted a whole year, and that whole wasted year cost Mitch Marner essentially, and then there was no time to figure out what to do with it. Like, everything has been late for this team, so it doesn't shock me and surprise me that maybe again they're late to the process, and they should have gotten rid of these guys, or they should have went in a different direction, when Mitch Marner decided to leave. Instead of realizing, hey, this group has many holes in it with him gone, they said, maybe we could try and plug some of this stuff. No, they couldn't, and they didn't. And they had Austin Matthews who was injured and on the decline, right? They had an aging out defensive core. They had 2 goaltenders who had the, career years. A lot of this stuff was likely to come back to norm. And with that, this is what you're left with. This is what it settles into. And it's not a winning product. 8 points out of a playoff spot. You're 53 games in. February's around the corner. Like, they're screwed. This team is screwed. And it'll be interesting to see kind of what they allow Tree Living to do. Like, does he have a long enough leash to go through a retool, to go through, a year or two of sucking, to, allow this team to pull back, take 2 steps forward, to take 3 steps back in a couple of years, or maybe even next season? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what their appetite is or their patience level. According to Keith Pelly from this summer, the patience level is 0. They expected to win and win a Stanley Cup. Remember he said we're not here to sell jerseys, we're here to win hockey games? It's not happening. So if you're here to win hockey games, do something. Put the squeeze on the GM. Put the squeeze here and make him do something to change the season of some kind, whether it's selling or buying. But staying pat, doing what they've been doing, not working at all.
And this is why you brought up those Keith Pelly comments. That's why I brought this up, because he made a declaration. They have not lived up to it. And like that when your top chief makes that proclamation and then this happens, that's not something they like to sit around with, right? No. You don't want, and I also think about, you don't want this culture to fester. You want to nip it. I mean, this has been issues for years where
I don't think you can nip. You're not nipping anything. You would need to restart. Let me ask you this. Is it possible to even reset the culture as long as Nylander and Matthews are in that locker room? I don't know if it is. I don't know if it is. But do they have the stomach to move on from those guys? No. Probably not either. Not either. Which means they'll be stuck in this washy middle for years. Matthews has 3 years left on that contract. Nylander's here longer term than that. I don't know. Until those guys have a weird, sudden realization that, things have to change. I'm not so sure that the mindset and the group and the mentality can change on a dime like that. You know what I mean? They've changed coaches, they've changed GMs, presidents have left, and there's still this embarrassing, entitled, we are gods of the city mentality in that room. And I don't think it changes until the leadership changes, ultimately. And do they have the appetite to make those types of bold moves? I don't think they do. And until they're ready to make that move, it's probably going to be we're just gonna be in the same boat every year. I think that's my answer on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the tough part here with what's been going on is you got too many things right now that would need to change. That it sounds a lot more unrealistic to expect full out gut everything, because there has to be approval from a board to let that happen, and I don't know if that board will let it happen. Don't know if they have the stomach for it.
Probably not, and that's the biggest issue, because although it's not about selling tickets and jerseys, those guys sell a lot of tickets and jerseys. It's revenue's revenue at the end of the day, and there's stockholders that still need to be happy with what's going on there. We'll see, Dave. We'll come back tomorrow. We can reconvene, and maybe we'll get a good night's sleep and feel a little better about the Maple Leafs. It feels like tonight was a bit of a dagger on the season. I will say, and maybe this is for tomorrow's show, we'll have a much more positive angle on tomorrow's show. This road trip, get away from the nonsense. There's some winnable games. There are some winnable games. And if you can rattle off 4 wins here and sweep the road trip, you might have a chance to get back on the saddle. But that's a must in order to make that happen. So we can get into more of that conversation on tomorrow's podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at @D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.